Hi, I'm Eje.
And I'm Heather.
We're the hosts of the podcast English as a Singing Language.
We're both experienced language teachers who love to use songs to teach
And learn.
That's right, and learn languages.
In our last episode, we focused on comparative adjectives in our celebration of women for International Women's Day.
That's right. Our playlist was even better this year than it was last year.
So how about this episode? What's the focus this time?
Eche, if I had a penny for every time we asked that question...
If we had a penny for every time we asked that question,
we'd be rich. That's right, we would.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me that we're going to talk about unreal conditionals?
If we talked about unreal conditionals, that would be a very interesting episode.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk about this episode.
Me neither. Let's get started. Hi, Eche. Eche. Hello,
Oh,
Eche.
hi, Heather.
Hi, you were pretty lost in thought there. What were you thinking about?
I was just imagining what my life would be like if I had more money.
More money would definitely make some things easier.
We could just focus on the podcast all the time.
That would be great.
Yes, it would. But unfortunately, this is just an imaginary situation.
It's not real.
And it's probably not going to become real.
No, probably not. But it's fun to think about sometimes.
If we're going to do that, we need to use the unreal conditional.
The unreal what?
The unreal conditional verb tense, like in the song I was just listening to.
It sounded like the 1992 hit folk rock song by the Canadian band Barenaked Ladies, If I Had $1 Million.
That's right. If I Had $1 Million was a big hit for them in the early 1990s.
It's a very funny song with a lot of silly lyrics, right?
That's right. In fact, according to Wikipedia, this is how the song was written. Quote, "It was first conceived as a simple improvised song while Page and Robertson were counselors at a summer music camp. On the way home from camp, Robertson played the tune for the campers, randomly listing amusing things he would buy with $1 million.
That makes sense. It almost sounds like a song you would sing at a summer camp.
Which also means that there is some fun vocabulary in this song too.
Very cool. But I guess before we start talking about the lyrics, we should first talk about the grammar.
Agree. So we use the unreal conditional tense for things, as the name implies, that are not real.
I remember back in Season 1, Episode 15, we talked about real conditionals in the song Can't Buy Me Love by the Beatles.
We did. That's a great episode. If you like songs by the Beatles and you love grammar, you will love that one.
I see what you did there. Nice use of the real conditional.
Thank you. But if we're talking about something that isn't true and probably won't be true, we use the unreal conditional.
So we use simple past tense in the if clause.
And a would or could verb in the result clause.
I could say, if I spent more time learning Russian, I would speak it better.
Right. And I could say, if I had artistic talent, I would paint your portrait.
Cool. So in this song, the unreal conditional is, if I had $1 million, which they don't. But they're singing about all the things they would do if they had that much money.
Let's take a look at some of those things.
It starts off pretty much how you would expect. If I had $1 million, I would buy you a house.
And I'd buy you furniture for your house. That seems like a pretty typical thing that people would do if they got $1 million.
They do make a little joke saying maybe a Chesterfield or an ottoman.
What kind of furniture is that? Those are interesting names for furniture.
A Chesterfield is a type of sofa that is usually covered in leather or velvet and has buttons on it. It's a pretty old-fashioned type of sofa.
And an ottoman is a kind of stool or footrest that is covered in material so it is soft.
It would probably match the Chesterfield.
It probably would.
The next thing they sing about is, well, I'd buy you a K-car, a nice Reliant automobile.
Do you remember K-cars, Heather?
They were a line of cars produced by Chrysler Automobile Corporation between 1981 and 1989. They were known to be a reliable and dependable car.
We wouldn't use reliant in this case, would we?
No, I think maybe they're using it because it fits better in the lyrics, but it should be reliable and not reliant.
Then he ends the verse with, if I had $1 million, I would buy your love.
Which we know from the Beatles song Can't Buy Me Love is impossible to do.
No, you can't buy love.
The next thing the singers say they would do is, I'd build a tree fort in our yard.
I always wanted a tree fort when I was younger.
Me too. I always thought it would be great to have a little house up in a tree where I could spend time with my friends.
And in this line, you notice he sings I'd instead of I would.
That's a very common contraction. I'd instead of I would.
They go on to talk about other things they would have in the tree fort, like sausages and a refrigerator.
That would be pretty cool. You could just hang in the tree fort.
The next thing they say they'd do is, well, I'd buy you a fur coat, but not a real fur coat. That's cruel.
The word cruel means causing pain or suffering, so it could be considered cruel to kill an animal to take its fur and wear it.
How about the next line? If I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you an exotic pet. Yep, like a llama or an emu.
Those are definitely more exotic pets than a dog or a cat.
I don't know anyone who has a llama or an emu as a pet. An emu is a giant bird like an ostrich, right?
Right. My house is way too small to have a llama or an emu.
The next line sounds pretty good, though. We wouldn't have to walk to the store. If I had $1 million, now we'd take a limousine because it costs more.
Can you imagine having a driver to take you to the store in a limousine?
That would be crazy.
The next line talks about what they wouldn't do if they had $1 million.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
They sing, we wouldn't have to eat Kraft dinner, but we would eat Kraft dinner. Of course we would. We'd just eat more.
Kraft dinners like the cheap macaroni and cheese dinners?
That's right, with the powdered cheese.
Oh my gosh, I ate so much of that when I was in graduate school.
Me too. And I actually ate macaroni and cheese just the other night.
That line in the song was so popular, fans actually would bring boxes of Kraft dinner to their concerts and throw them on stage.
I think that would make it hard to sing if people were throwing boxes of food at you.
It got to be too much, so instead they asked people to donate the boxes of macaroni and cheese to people who don't have enough to eat.
They would put big boxes outside of the concert hall for people to put the macaroni and cheese in.
That's a great way to solve the problem.
If you had a lot of extra food, it would be a good idea to donate it to people who need it.
I agree.
In the last part of that verse, they sing about lots of funny things.
If I had $1 million, I would buy you a green dress,
Some art.
a monkey.
Haven't you always wanted a monkey?
Actually, no, I think having a monkey would be terrible.
I'll stick with my cat. No llamas, emus, or monkeys for me.
This is such a fun song.
I think so too. And do you know what else I think?
That it's time to sing.
Yes, it's definitely time to sing.
There is a link to a studio recording of the Barenaked Ladies 1991 song, If I Had $1 Million, in the episode notes. There is no official video for this song. There are many different live versions of the song on YouTube that you can check out too.
Don't forget to sing out loud as you listen.
And pay attention to all of the funny and interesting examples of the unreal conditional.
If we had $1 million, we'd be rich.
So, Heather, what would you do with $1 million?
That's a good question. If I had $1 million, I'd probably do a lot of traveling. I'd also spend a lot of time with my family. How about you, Eche?
If I had $1 million, I would buy a big house to live in with all my friends.
That sounds great.
Who knows? Maybe the podcast will become incredibly popular and we'll make $1 million.
That would be fantastic, but I think it's an unreal conditional, at least for right now.
Who knows? Listeners, make sure to tell your friends and family members to check out the podcast.
And be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Singing Languages.
And then who knows, maybe we'll get that $1 million.
Maybe, but until then, have fun and just keep singing.